We don't have that song, do we?
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe with Anna and Sheila. I'm Sheila, and this is not Anna.
Nope, I'm not Anna. I'm Melinda. Hi.
Melinda's our booking agent. Actually, Anna's took the weekend off to be with her college-age child. So we have our substitute host today, who also brought her two little Democats who were available for adoption.
Yes, through Rescue Cats of Florida. It's about to be kitten season, and we desperately need volunteers to foster and to help us out in any way that they would like to. So if you're interested, Erin will pop up Rescue Cats information and we will get in touch with you. And these kittens are going to be going up for adoption this coming week. So
we have two little black girl kitties who are adorable.
This is Dumpling.
And I just, oops.
And this is Saturn. Dumpling lost her collar. She did not like it. She didn't like the accessories. So
poor little things. But anyway, they're available for adoption, and they're adorable. They're really cute as buttons. And so I'm going to put one of them back in her little crate so that she can chill out because she's not really happy right now. Good girl.
This one back in.
Good girl. So anyway, we've got a really special guest today. But before that, did anybody see CPAC? That was exciting. And how come everybody here is rolling their eyes at me?
Because I don't want to give any energy to it
at
all.
True.
He said he was going to go away and not come back, and he didn't.
Now
no more lie. Ugh, just go away.
And then yesterday he was supposed to be sworn in again as the new president.
Yeah,
and I don't remember. I saw no coverage on it. I even looked at Faux News, and they didn't have any coverage.
Nope.
So maybe it's just golfing, which
just
is
more
where
lies.
he needs to be.
More lies.
So we have a great show today. We have a special guest, and I know Russ from, I think I met Russ maybe 4 years ago, at the Democratic Women's Club of Southeast Hillsborough County, which I am the first vice president. Woo-ah. And Russ actually came and talked to us on some environmental issues, but he wears multiple hats. He is a labor guru, he's an environmental guru, and he is in charge of outreach for Hillsborough Dems. So we're going to bring him on in a second as soon as Erin gets him up there. And welcome, Russ. How are you? Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
It's the crux of every online meeting.
It really is.
I feel like I'm in a seance. It's like, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, I think the one thing Trump will lie about everything, but the one promise that he actually kept was to make America great again, because under his administration, the Dems have took the Senate, took the presidency, and held that, and took the House, held the House. So from that aspect, we're in a pretty good spot. So that's the one promise that I appreciate that he kept.
That's true.
Yes.
And hopefully I read an article today about the Senate's going to try to get rid of the filibuster so that they can keep the filibuster so they can get through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I really want the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to pass at the federal level.
Well, and if you leave in place systems of control that disenfranchise the majority of America, it doesn't do purpose if it's going to be used to obstruct. So the filibuster has a good role in spirit, but it's been weaponized for the past 10, 15 years to such a degree that it no longer functions as a curb on authoritarianism. It actually helps enable it. So there are two minds of it, because when we're not in power, it's very useful. However, Republicans have rolled over it through reconciliation, all these other things, and now are saying, well, we're the bad guys when we're doing it. Well, they passed a $2 trillion tax scam, and we're trying to do a $2 billion bailout for people that are hurting and impoverished due to COVID. So we're on the right side, regardless of what the Republicans want to say at the national level, trying to, argue. Spin.
Yeah.
It's all spin. It's
It's
all
all
spin.
spin. It's absolutely
Well,
all
and I
spin.
was so annoyed last night when I heard that Senate Johnson decided to make the clerks read the entire bill. Yeah, annoyed was being kind. But anyway, let's get off the federal stuff. We're much more interested in state stuff right now. We're going to let the feds deal with all their own issues. We know that the legislative session started Monday in Florida, and there's some pretty funky bills up there and some pretty weird stuff. But you have some good stuff for us for local Tampa, right?
Yes. So the legislative session up in Tallahassee is always a bit of a troublesome, meddlesome priest. But this year is notably bad because there's a lot of home rule issues that will stop the progress we have made locally with a solidly blue Hillsborough. So locally, we did a Tenants Bill of Rights that Board of County Commission just passed, which is amazing. We have City of Tampa passed an apprenticeship ordinance that Board of County Commission is also taking up to require 15% of government builds to require apprenticeships and labor, which is good paying union jobs that actually help
Yes.
help raise the middle class. And then legislature in Tallahassee comes and says, "Oh, we're going to do a preemption bill. We're going to try and kill this for you." We're also working on a clean energy resolution in the city of Tampa to get away from fossil fuels and fossil fuel infrastructure by 2030. That city of Tampa is poised to adopt very, very soon. And then Tallahassee, once again, has put a preemption bill, and that bill is House Bill 839 and Senate Bill 856, which basically preempts all clean energy resolutions across the state. And I believe there's 14 or so different municipalities and cities that have put forward aggressive targets to address climate change. And this is all being backed by large oligarch donors and fossil fuel industry lobbyists. So
Hey,
it's
Russ,
fun.
when I moved down here, I didn't really understand what the whole preemption was. I mean, coming from Virginia, they didn't have that. So can you just tell us real quick, like in Reader's Digest version, what the preemption means for localities like Hillsborough?
So with the clean energy, for example, we say, well, we don't want any fossil fuel infrastructure. We don't want a pipeline coming through the city of Tampa. And then Tallahassee says, we're going to remove your right to argue whether or not you have the authority to say yes or no about your own backyard. And we are going to take that authority and then say you do not have the capacity to make the decision for your own backyard. That's basically what it is. And then they approve it.
So
Now
it's,
they have authority.
so it's kind of like women's health issues then, huh? You're taking away the rights of women. So we're taking away the rights of localities. Okay, we understand that completely.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
we
pretty
do.
much it is. It's trying to legislate, a body that isn't yours.
Yeah, we totally get that piece.
Yes.
So in the Tampa resolution, how's that going to work with Tico in our backyard?
So the Tico plant is actually in Apollo Beach, so it's not directly affected. One of the concerns that has been brought to our attention is there is a potential for with the Tico plant, they're converting away from coal and to fracked gas. And for what fracked gas is basically pressurized gas, CNG, and the like. And so with that conversion, the long-term aspirations of the gas industry is to put a pipeline down through or transport via buses or trucks, and basically ship that out down the road potentially, exporting it. So this would say you can't do it in City of Tampa, or you shouldn't do it in City of Tampa unless it's required for military readiness, or certain hospitals need some gas. ALFs have to have backup generators. Those things are all fine. We're not trying to say get rid of gas stations. We're just trying to say we don't need a pipeline that could potentially explode or these trucks that are going to be transporting it in our backyard that they're not going to pay for. We're going to have to recover from it if something like that happens. And we are likely to eventually have a problem like that. There is history of that across the country of big cataclysmic problems on ports.
It just baffles me that we're still having the same argument year after year after year about energy and energy dependence. I was appalled that we live in the Sunshine State. Not every house has solar panels on their roofs. And I know that it's not feasible to do that, but it's just, I don't understand why we're so adamant about keeping fossil fuels. And is it just the money the candidates are getting?
So I wouldn't go that far to say it's the fossil fuel industry gives money to electeds and candidates to get a meeting. That doesn't mean that automatically the candidates are taking their advice and just being at their beck and call. We have a lot of good environmental champions elected locally, so I would not stain them with that. However, what they do is they get the meeting because of the donations, and then they look at what you're doing and then come up with their own behind the scenes way to fight it. And that's really where they're not acting always in good faith. Sometimes some of them do. I'll be fair, but a majority of the times they're not looking because it hurts their stakeholders and their profits. So there are things we can do, however. For example, to address the climate crisis, it takes multiple arrows in the quiver, and TECO can't stop all of them. TECO's one portion, but there are other things we can do, like for the solar, just like what you mentioned, we can require new buildings be solar ready. We don't have to necessarily force solar to be installed if it doesn't make sense because of trees or whatever, and they're not getting good sunshine, but we can make them solar ready. We can update the building codes to be more weatherized, to handle extreme temperature changes, and things like that are common sense solutions that reduce our dependence on fossil fuel, which then therefore, makes it easier to depend on solar solutions and wind and tidal solutions. So we have to reduce our consumption. That is part of it.
That's true. We were recently in a little place called the Faroe Islands, which is off of the coast of Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. And they are 100% solar and thermal power. They don't use any fossil fuels at all. And it was amazing just to see a country that could do that. And granted, it's a tiny little country of 100,000 people, but they had made the commitment. And so it would be really nice to have some of that kind of move down here.
Well,
I wanted to ask you, do you know anything about Nestle taking all of our spring water? What is going on with that?
I'll touch on that in a moment, but I just want to,
Okay.
before we move off of this subject, I want to make it very clear. We can do that here. We can get to a clean energy future, by 2030 or shortly thereafter, if we have the willpower to do it. So I would strongly recommend to your viewers to call City of Tampa council members, email them, and show up on March 18th, where they're going to be considering adopting that resolution.
That's great. We're going to put it on our page right now.
Yeah, and if they will adopt that and take bold, approach, then we can move the mayor and get municipal fleet and get to that carbon zero future that we want to.
That would be great.
Would. Really
So
would.
to answer your question on Nestle and water quality, we definitely have a huge water quantity issue. The Nestle permit, they've been fighting it out in court up in Jenny Springs, where I have personally been and witnessed. It is atrocious. Water is a human right. Access to water is a human right. And we have reduced our reserves in the aquifer for the last 20 years. And it has been compounded by Nestle's billion gallons regularly that they are continuing to pull out. It is atrocious. It is, for one private company to get away with things like at this level, and they don't even pay tax on it. They don't even pay tax on it. There is a bill, however, I believe it's sponsored by Anna Escamani in this session, or Tato. I'd have to go back and look. That does put a tax on the water they're pulling out. So if it can get a hearing, that would be fantastic. But really, we need to stop for-profit water pull because we have local issues because of it. The city of Tampa is considering the PURE project, which is about water quantity and not water quality. And that's one of the concerns, is the water quality if they move forward with that.
Well, Russ, I have a tidbit of info for you. In the late 70s, Nestle was over in Africa, and they convinced women not to breastfeed their children, to go with this formula. They gave them the formula free, but the formula had to be mixed with water. The water that they had there was contaminated, so they had to buy water from Nestle to mix with the formula to feed their children instead of breastfeeding for the 2 years that they would have done. So they were, I mean, as far as I was concerned, since 1980, persona non grata in my house. Nothing from Nestle comes into my house after that. So they have a history of doing that and just pretty much targeting populations that may not even know about it or be aware of what they're doing.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's what they're doing with us.
Nestle is the worst. Actually, to compound on that story, the fact that they gave them to them for free, and then the breast milk from the mothers stopped producing,
right?
Which made them required to continue, and there was actually a lot of morbidity issues with the children that did not have access to the clean water, and so it was actually much worse than just pillaging financial and natural resources, but it was actually human lives as well, which is just absolutely atrocious. There's slavery all over the place there with Nestle.
Oh yeah, they're probably, as far as the companies that I've had to deal with on the healthcare end, they're probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. It's very, very sad that they're not being held accountable in any way, shape, or form. Well, and everybody thinks that they're so wholesome, which, if you're out there listening, get rid of everything that Nestle produces from your house and don't buy it anymore.
Yeah, the Crunch bars and the Crackle bars aren't that good. I mean, what Nestle produces, you can get other places, I promise.
And you can get a better quality product someplace else too.
Yeah.
So, Russ, one of the things that Melinda's got her little kitten vest over here. One of the things that we try to do, or actually we started doing, was getting members of our community involved in politics. And it started over the summer with local candidates, and we started doing caravans and our car caravans, sign waving, flag waving, working at the polls, all of this stuff. So we had a really large group of people who were involved. The election came, we all know the outcome, and all of us went, oh, now what do we do? So we have another 2 years. So what can we do to help the Dems over the next 2 years keep Hillsborough County blue and make the state bluer than it already is?
And get rid of DeSantis and Rubio and Scott. And also, I am still very upset because Vern Buchanan represents me, and he's in Sarasota, and we're all the way up here. It's ridiculous. That's gerrymandering right there. Just makes me angry.
So we were. I'm not happy about all the gerrymandering because that's going to come back up in 22. So that's a whole that's going to suck. But to answer your question, we did a really good job in this last cycle. We gave a 50,000 vote margin to Biden. Unfortunately, the rest of Florida did not feel that Biden was the candidate, which is a shame. But we did do our part in Hillsborough. And now it's time to show those voters and prove to them that we can govern locally. We have a supermajority on the Board of County Commission. We have a solid blue city of Tampa. We just recently got a blue majority on the city of Temple Terrace. So it is time, and we need to show the voters that we can govern and that we can provide for them and we can do what they asked us to do. So the first thing is to help our electeds in doing that by going to public comment, by telling them we support them, by messaging opponents of good democratic legislation and saying, no, 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 this needs to happen, and supporting electeds with their ambitious goals. Like I mentioned earlier, the citizens, the Renters' Bill of Rights. Well, there was a lot of calls from the community that helped get that passed. Those are the types of things that the voters need to see elected Dems do. The other aspect of that, directly to outreach, is the party needs to focus on the service. We need to be in the communities. We need to show people that we care about their issues. We need to be taking feedback from their issues. And we need to be advocating for voices that are not being heard. So we can do that with COVID by helping provide resources and helping make sure frontline communities know where those sites are and how they can access to them, fighting for their water and air quality, and helping fight for their kitchen table issues. Taking that feedback, making sure the county commission or the city of Tampa listen. So one of the things with outreach that I do in that position is I help set up new clubs and caucuses. A club is a regional-based organization under the Democratic umbrella that advocates locally for those issues. So, for example, there's a lot of development going on in Waimama. So we maybe should have a Waimama club to talk about that issue, to make sure county commission hears directly from those constituents and they have a voice in the planning process, as opposed to getting ignored, which they have historically been ignored for the last 20 years when it was a Republican majority. So that's an example of the things we can do.
Waimama is it's a hot mess down there with trying to get people involved and trying to get them focused on water issues and building issues. And you're right. I think that the community down there has felt really ignored by everybody, every leader that's been around.
That goes exactly to the point on Vernon Buchanan. He doesn't care about Waimama. When has he ever been to Waimama? And so we need to make sure that we are in those communities, not only registering voters, but asking about their issues. That way, when we have a candidate, that candidate can know and fight for those issues and know those community leaders and actually be advocating for good policy that Vernon Buchanan won't.
Well, it was funny when Vern voted against the extra benefits check for folks. I called his office and I said, what about those people who live in Waimama and Gibsonton and Ruskin? They're not rich like the people who live where Vern lives.
Exactly.
Maybe they could actually use that $1,400. And the poor girl on the other end of the phone was like, I'll let him know. I'm like, yeah, you better. And then I tweeted him and put it on Facebook because it's like, dude, just because you live in an enclave that's gated on Longboat Key,
where you can get private COVID shots,
doesn't mean the people picking your produce don't deserve the same representation.
Oh, they definitely do. And it's on us to educate those voters and get their feedback and get them involved. They don't know how to get involved unless we bring them to the table, pull up a chair, and listen. And that's what we need to be doing as a party. We need to be a workers' party first. We need to be the middle class party first. And we need to make sure that we're not only right on the issues, because we are. Republican voters agree with us on acting on environment, on workers, on raising the minimum wage. But for some reason, we have a messaging problem because we're not listening and we're just speaking to ourselves. And we need to actually be ahead of these issues, like the fight for 15, like, Florida Forever funding, like felon restoration rights. And we need to be taking the lead on this actively and making progress for the people, because those were popular than any Democrat. Those citizen amendments were more popular than any Democratic candidate.
That's just sad.
But those candidates would make it happen if people associated the candidates with the policies. And for some reason, we're not doing a good enough job in making sure they understand that the Democrats are actually fighting for those values.
Well, I don't think it's that we're not doing a good enough job. I think that the other side has a louder bullhorn than we do.
And they're fear-mongering. That's a lot of it.
Lying helps.
Yeah, it does.
It's hard to say, hey, the Democrats support $15 an hour when you've got people saying we don't need $15 an hour, or you've got that moron from Texas. I can't even say his name because he's just such a stupid piece of human being garbage, saying, hey, Cancun is better than Texas, and Cancun and Orlando are better than anything. And, the Republicans are the party of the working class people. I'm like, what?
Since when? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I don't think they've been fighting for workers' rights since
Reagan.
at the minimum before I was born.
Since Ronald
It's
Reagan.
Reagan started a lot of this.
So and to be fair, Orlando is better than Texas.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Sanford's better than Texas.
Yeah, if you have any Texas viewers, I apologize, but don't at me because I think Orlando is better than Texas.
I think pretty much our backyard is better than Texas.
So the governor, just to say, the governor in Texas took away the mask mandate, and then the next day complained and said because Biden was letting all the immigrants in that they were going to give everybody COVID. It's like, dude, I just can't. It's like, please just put the mask back on.
Well, and
they're trying to do that on purpose so they can blame Biden. It's ridiculous.
Well, and our favorite follower, Ron DeSantis, is going in 2 weeks, going to follow the lead of Texas and say, oh, we don't need a mask mandate anymore as well.
I didn't think we had one. I mean, if you look at pictures all over the place, nobody's wearing a mask.
I'm not sure that we do. Maybe he hasn't even stepped up to the plate to even do that.
No.
He can't flip-flop when he never even tried.
Exactly.
It just, I spent the last 10 years in public health, and this whole thing just baffles me that people are just so upset about wearing a piece of cloth over their face to protect themselves. And if you look at the numbers of flu cases, there was almost no flu this year. None. Yeah, one pediatric flu death in Florida. That was it. But that,
all counted as COVID deaths?
Yeah.
I had COVID, and believe me, you don't want it. It is not a good experience. And if you know anybody or you have anyone that has experienced it, I've also had my shots. Sheila's had her shots, so that's why we don't have on a mask because we're good.
We're in a bubble.
Yes, we're in a bubble. But it was horrible. I have never felt so sick in my life, and I am still dealing with long haulers from COVID. So it's been a journey that may impact the rest of my life. And if people really knew that, I think they would stop and think about it and put the mask on.
Well, I think the message here to the people that say, oh, it bothers me, is it's not about the left or right. It's not about the politics. It's about common courtesy and common human decency. When you walk into a store, you used to open the door for people. Now you don't want to touch it because there might be COVID on the handle. But just as a general rule, if somebody was walking into a store in front of you, they would hold the door for you, and vice versa. That's all the mask is. That's the simple ask is, hey, it's not for you. It's just slight inconvenience because you want to be a decent human being. That's the end of the conversation. And I understand there are people that have legitimate medical concerns. And I say legitimate, like actually legitimate. But we should be protecting those people by doing our part and not creating fake excuses. Like, it's just, come on, just put on the mask and don't be an ass.
Well,
there you go.
having
Like
worked
that.
in isolation rooms and worn a mask for 12 hours, I had a guy in Costco. I came up to him. I'm like, dude, can you put on your mask? He was an older man. He's like, oh, no, I can't breathe in it. I said, I'm a nurse and I wear masks for 12 hours a day and I breathe just fine. He's like, well, I can't. I'm like, well, then you need to leave because I have to go to work and you're bothering me.
Well, okay, fine. Even if you can't have a mask, you can get a face screen. You can get a face shield. Like, there are other solutions if you were legitimately trying to. I'm tired of hearing these people that say, I can't wear a mask because I can't breathe, but I don't have a doctor's note. Well, then you're lying.
Right. And if you can't breathe with the mask on, you should not be out in public.
No, you shouldn't be. Order it on Amazon. I mean, I hate to say it, but you don't need to go out then. You don't need to be at a diner.
Right.
You know.
And we all have a mask that says it goes over your nose. And so I wore it to my doctor's office a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, I love your mask. Where did you get it? And he ordered 10 of them on the spot for his staff. So his staff now all have these masks that say it goes over your nose.
I just got a couple new ones that say "Good Trouble" on them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We have ones that say my governor's an idiot.
Well, that's fair.
It is. It's fair.
And you'll have to retire them after 2022, I hope.
Oh my God, I hope so. Oh, mask burning party,
Yes.
just like a bra burning party.
Yes.
There you go.
We can do that.
And actually, it looks like from what I'm hearing, we might have a couple of really good candidates coming into Hillsborough to speak with us on the potential run for governor. So
Who's coming? Spill the
well,
beans.
wow.
We want to know.
We want a scoop.
well, so we have a Spring Fling coming up May 1st, which is a limited event at the Sale Plaza. Limited quantity, social distancing, and all of that stuff. But we have a couple of speakers lined up, including our House Rep Anna Escamani and our U.S. Congress Rep Charlie Crist.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
good. We're going to get Anna Escamante on our show.
Yep.
We're working on that right now. And we'll reach out to Charlie Chris, too. Haven't reached out to him yet. He's on the list.
And Nikki Fried. I
Nikki
heard
Fried.
a rumor that she might be interested
Yep.
in doing something other than her current position in 2020. Too.
And
Yep.
Alan, was it
Three
Alan someone? I
Those-
don't know.
Wait, what was that?
Those are the three names that I've heard floated: is Nikki, Charlie, and maybe Anna. There's recruiting for Anna. And there's a couple of names I've heard for Rubio's seat as well.
Yeah, Val Demings.
Val Demings.
Val Demings, I believe Stephanie Murphy is in the mix out of
Yep.
Orlando, I believe. And I think there's one other name that I'm not at liberty to mention
Oh,
That's okay.
okay.
at this point.
Well, Russ, we have thoroughly enjoyed having you on. We're going to have you come back on sometime in May, if that's okay with you, after the session's over, to kind of talk about where we're going to go for the next 18 months after that.
Oh, we forgot to talk about the
Oh.
dues and uniform assessment,
The labor bill.
the labor bill. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
going to impact teachers, right?
Yeah, so there's two bills. There's one bill, I think it's Senate Bill 78, and then the other one is Senate Bill 48 or 58. Let me see. But basically, they're trying to bust up the unions. They're trying to roll over any ability to organize. I mean, they have been busting up the unions for years and years and years. They have fast-tracked Senate Bill 78. This is a very important one to call your legislators to oppose, especially if you are in district with a Republican.
Yes, Mike Beltran.
Yeah, Beltran and the whole lot. But in effect, it forces them to re-register every year. It forces them to check and removes automatic withdrawals from the unions. So they have to get their union card. They can't. Then the businesses, they have to bring back to the company and say, yes, I do want you to take this out. Then refill the union card out every year to reload and basically like renew that you still want to be there. And it's just unnecessary extra hoops. And they're just doing that to continue to bite at the edges, just like they've done with abortion rights and things like that. Where
Voting rights. They're doing the same thing with voting rights.
and voting rights, exactly.
Ridiculous.
And so we need to oppose 78. There's another bill, I think it's 48 or 58, Senate side, that reallocates more money to charter schools, and that's going to hurt our teachers' unions and our public school system as well. There's a lot, and then HB1, the public combating public disorder bill, which is not combating public disorder. It is breaking down on protesters under the guise of the Black Lives Matter rioting, which never happened in Florida in any way, shape, or form. And I will be fair, it's not Black Lives Matter that have rioted anywhere. It is a couple of agitators that are painting a picture and using the media to do it.
Yep.
And, you know, what's funny about the HB1 is you actually have representatives, Republican representatives, that are equally concerned about it passing, like Anthony Sabatini, who is a right-wing conspiracy type nut that is just like in the vein of Matt Gaetz, that actually is opposing HB1 because the Republicans that are like rioting at the Capitol would be held accountable harder, and so for the wrong reason. But strange bedfellows. Strange bedfellows.
I don't know. Well, Russ, thank you so much. We so
Thank
appreciate you coming on. You're always a wealth of information, and we will chat offline and get some bills posted on our site to help you guys out.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Anytime you need anything from us, just let us know, please.
Anytime you want to come back, but we'll definitely see you after the session.
All right, I'll have a report ready to go. I'll start drafting it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was great.
That was great.
We have these two lovely here. Let me have one. Let me have Dumpling. We have these two lovely demo cats who need new homes. You can send them together. And Big Cat Rescue or go to
no Rescue Cats of Florida.
Rescue Cats of Florida.
We are also they will be at PetSmart this weekend.
Which
and I've
PetSmart?
had the one on Lithia Pinecrest
In Valrico.
around in Valrico.
Dumpling.
And Rescue Cats, like I said, we need volunteers. It's going to be kitten season. It's starting right now, so we're going to need people to help. I will just tell you personally that fostering has been the best experience for my family. They have brought so much joy into our home during this COVID season. So if you're bored and you're trying to still stay in until we all get our shots, adopt a little kitten or foster a little kitten. It'll make your life happier.
Well, who do we have next week, Erin?
Sarah Strider with she's a military policy advocate.
Ooh, excellent. Sarah Strider from Secure Families Initiatives. Yes, so we're very excited.
And then
And
Ion's coming the next
Yep,
week.
and Ione Townsend, the head of the Hillsborough Democratic Committee, is coming the week after. So we've got some good folks lined up. If there's anybody you guys want us to try to get, we're trying really hard to get Randy Rainbow, but he just does not seem to respond to us. Maybe we'll have to do a song and send it to him that way. And we've got in April, we have Midas Touch coming on.
Mhm.
So that'll be good. Guys, thanks.
Thank
we love you
you.
all. Thank you. And to
Thank you
Ruth.
for having me, to Ruth.
To Ruth.
Bye.
Like, follow, share. Cup of
Yes,
Joe.
please. Like, follow, share.